The Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade.
Welcome to the Unfiltered by Jade, where we get out of the box and dive into topics that are sidelined. I look forward to entertain, educate, and inspire. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records.
Shopping assistance, your style, your budget. Our services include online and local shopping for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, and helping you find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195 or shoppingassistance2015@gmail.com. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget.
Welcome back to the Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us here Susan Hendrix. And Susan is the podcast host for My Story Living with Lupus podcast. She's the founder for Charlie E. and Minnie P. Hendrix Foundation for Chronic Illness Awareness. So, hi Susan, and welcome to the Unfiltered by Jade.
Hi, Jade. Thank you so much for having me on your show today.
No problem. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So, I want you to get into this. So first of all, for those who don't know, what exactly is lupus?
Lupus is a chronic autoimmune illness. Some researchers call it a disease, but I don't call it a disease because when you think of a disease, that's something that you can pass on to someone else.
Okay.
But it is a chronic autoimmune disease that can damage any part of the body, including the skin, the joints, and organs inside of the body.
Okay.
Now, when we speak of chronic, some people may have different definitions for chronic, but chronic means that the signs and symptoms tend to persist longer than 6 weeks and often for many years when we're talking about lupus. Now, lupus can mimic different types of other illnesses.
Oh.
Yes, and it takes a while, maybe years, for them to come with a definitive diagnosis that an individual has lupus. Now, in my case, I started to experience these signs and symptoms of lupus at the age of 5. Now, back in the 60s, the doctors were not well versed on lupus, and some never even heard of it. So it was by trial and error that I was finally diagnosed with lupus back in 2004. So it took all those years.
Honestly, that's a long time.
Yes, it is a long time. And can you imagine a child going out and coming back in the house? I could stay out for less than 5 minutes, but when I came back in, I was broken out in a rash. And my parents thought it was a heat rash, but it wasn't. I would get very ill after being outside. And the icing on top of this all is that I lost my hair at a young age.
Okay.
and my mother was doing my hair, and she noticed that my hair was coming out in the comb and in the brush. And she went to my father. I overheard her say, "Charlie, it's something going on with this girl. Her hair is coming out." And she showed my father, and my father called me into the room. He said, "Come here." He said, "Show me your head." And I showed him, and he told my mother, "Find a specialist to take her to and see what they say." And I remember going to this specialist at the time, and he just told my mother to wash her hair every day. And it was some type of ointment that my mother had to place in my hair. And my hair eventually started to grow back. And finally, I went into what we know now as remission. And during this remission, I was in high school. The symptoms started to occur again, and went back to specialist after specialist after specialist. They didn't know. And my father owned a business in Nashville, Tennessee. And he told my mother, he said, "Let's take her to Nashville to the doctors down there." And I remember going into Vanderbilt, and they were checking me out. And the doctor said, "Mr. Hendrix, we think she may have lupus." And as a child, you don't pay any attention to what the doctors say. I was off in my own little world. And I remember my father saying, "No, I'm not going to accept that. We'll take her someplace else." And then I went back into remission. And in 2004, I received a call. I was in my office, and they said, "Miss Hendrix, the doctor would like to see you." And I said, "About what? We can talk about this over the phone. There's no need for me to come in." And they said, "No, they want to see you." And I said, "Okay, I'll come on in." And I went into the office, and the doctor said, "Susan, take a seat. I have something to tell you." And I looked at his face, and I said, "What? You want to tell me that I have lupus?" And he said, "Why do you say that?" I said, "Because I'm exhibiting all the signs and symptoms again." I had lost so much weight that people were thinking that I was taking drugs, and that was not the case. The fatigue was so intense. The muscle and joint pain was horrific. It was hard for me to function on a daily basis.
Right.
And I started my journey again with doctors. I said, "I need something more than this," because it can mimic some, other illnesses.
Okay. Right.
I needed for them to rule out everything.
Right.
And that's what happened. And I went to a doctor by the name of Patricia Darr here in Detroit, Michigan. And she had ran the gamut of testing on me. And it came up. She told me, "Susan, yes, you have lupus, and this is the course of treatment that we're going to start you on." Now, the lupus I have, which is known as systemic lupus erythematosus, is the more serious kind of lupus than any other lupus, because systemic lupus erythematosus, it attacks my internal organs. I have had a heart attack. I have had liver damage that I'm dealing with right now. I've been diagnosed with autoimmune liver disease. It has attacked my kidneys. It has attacked my lungs. And I have just finished a course of treatment for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma because lupus attacked my lymphatic system. So, getting back to what it is, there's different types. You heard of the systemic lupus erythematosus, which I have, but there also exists cutaneous discoid lupus that affects only the skin and shows
Mm,
up as a rash. And
okay.
then there's drug induced lupus, and it's caused by certain medications. And neonatal lupus can occur in the fetus of women with lupus.
Oh.
So basically, that's what lupus is.
I'm hearing it. I didn't know that there was so much to it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really
it
didn't
is.
know that there was so much to it. And the truth is, I also know persons who have lupus, and I mean, sometimes they're in pain. You know, they're in pain and they can't function well, and you really don't know what it's really like because I mean, you don't have it, and they're not even sometimes able to explain what is happening.
Right, right.
So it's not even a, oh my God, it's like there's so much to it that, boy, you just really don't know. You don't know because I'm hearing some of the things you're saying is the first I'm ever hearing any of those things before.
Yeah. And, lupus is not a one size fits all illness. You can't place it in a box and said, okay, all of our lupus patients have this type of symptom. It's not like that. And I have been told from people who are not really familiar with lupus that you don't look sick. And,
Yeah.
and I would say to myself, only if you knew what it would take for me to just wake up in the morning and sit on the edge of the bed just to feel better. It's like for some people, it's like having the flu 24/7, 365 days out of the year. And that's what, I want people to know. No, no, we may not look sick, but we're fighting just to stay alive. And I want people to realize that this illness is a serious illness and it affects women of color, especially African American
Really?
women. Yes, it's more prevalent with African American women than any other race.
And that's the thing. I like, why? Is it something that we're doing? Is it, I don't, that's the thing, like, why? Why is it that it just affects this group of persons?
They say researchers have stated that it could be the environment that we live in. And, as women, we can feel bad, but we'll push through anyway and say, well, we'll go to the doctor and see about ourselves some other time.
Yeah.
In my case, mine is genetic. My grandmother, who was Native American, she had it, but they did not know it was lupus way back then. I listened to the stories of my father telling me that he remembers his mother always being in pain and just sick all the time. She could not work in the fields. My father lived on a plantation. She could not work in the fields. And when doctors took the genetic testing from me, they said it passed down. My father had the gene, and it skipped my brothers and sisters and hit me. Now I have a daughter, and she gets tested yearly.
Yes. Yes.
And when I gave birth to her, and this is something I don't know if other women with lupus has gone through, I hemorrhaged. And it was hard for them to stop the bleeding. And I had to stay in the bed after I gave birth to her due to the hemorrhaging.
Okay. All right, these are a lot of emotions. I'm just gonna be honest with you. These are a lot of emotions. During that time, because you said you had lupus from you were 5. You didn't know
Right,
about it until years after.
right.
What was the emotions like going through not being able to go outside long as a child growing up, even as an adult? Those experiences, what were the emotions that you were feeling?
I would sit, we had a picture window, and I would sit in the window and watch the other kids play. And I would ask my mother, I said, why can't I go out like the other kids do? And she said, well, you may get sick. And she tried to make it sound not so horrible,
Right, right.
but, being that young and all I could do was just sit in the house, it was a sad time for me.
Yeah.
It was a sad time. And when I could go out is when the sun was going down, and my mother would let me out in the backyard. Everybody else was in, and I would go and just swing on the
By yourself.
swings and come on back inside the house and start it all over again.
Again.
Yeah. But as I got older and the diagnosis came, I could not I could not allow myself to get in a depressed state of mind. This is what I have. It was not my fault or my parents' fault or my grandmother's fault that I had this. And I said, I know what triggers, the flares. So I had to live accordingly. I could not exercise vigorously
Right.
like I used to. I had to pace myself. And I said, I'm not going to let this stop me from living. And I did a whole lot of praying and talking to God. And my life is not over.
No.
It's not over as long as I can get the word out
Yes.
about it, and that I know I can't save the world, but if I can help one person,
Yes.
my job is done.
Yes. Yes.
Just by letting them know that your life is not over, you can still live your life. You just have to make adjustments.
Yes.
Don't sit back and be in a pity party
Yes.
of one. And if you believe in a higher power, I suggest you talk to that higher power, and he will help you to make it through to each and every day. And that's how I do it.
Yes. Yes. For the process of going to the doctors and getting these tests done and having to hear these kind of news. How was that process for you?
Well, Going to the doctor, I go every 3 months. And when I go every 3 months, that means they're going to do a blood draw.
Okay.
And it's not just one tube or two. I was getting my blood drawn this past Saturday, and I stopped counting at 13 tubes of
Mercy, God.
blood. And the young lady, before she took my blood, she said, "Which arm?" I said, "My right arm is no good." I said, "You have to use the left one." And I know it does not surprise me when I walk into each specialist's office when I hear, "Susan, sorry to tell you, but we have to add this to your list of diagnoses." And they look at me and I said, "Oh, well, it's just one of those things. What do you want me to say?" I said, "The only thing I can tell you to my physicians is what is the plan of care we are going to proceed with now." And I tell all my physicians, never sugarcoat anything with me. Give me the straight, raw facts about whatever is going on with me. And you have to advocate for yourself.
Man.
You're going through this, and I'm my own best advocate. And I try to tell other individuals that I speak with, be your own best advocate. Don't feel intimidated when it comes to your care team just because they have that white coat on. Doesn't mean for you to clam up and sit up there and not say anything regarding your health. You have to remain proactive. So, with me, it's no surprise of the diagnosis that I get when I go back in there. Because believe me, with systemic lupus, it's going to attack as it has my internal organs, and it's attacking my internal organs now. And I had to explain it to my family that I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me or have pity on me. Treat me like you've been treating me. I don't want any type of special treatment, but these are the cold, hard facts about what I'm dealing with in regards to my health. My siblings may not like what they hear, but they respect what I say, and they tell me, if you're okay with it, we're okay with it, and we're here to support you in any way we can.
Yes. Yes, I was about to ask about the family dynamics. How does that work? I mean, but you answered that. So apart from even family, you have that support from even your friends.
Your friends will fall to the wayside
Oh yeah.
when they find out that you have an illness. And I hate to sound like this, but I have to be truthful with you. It's like, what good are you for now?
Oh mercy. You're absolutely right though. Yeah.
Yeah, what good are you for now? The phone calls stop coming in. The text messages stop. So my circle now consists of my family.
Yeah.
Because people, I can't, let me take that back. I can't categorize everybody. Some people, when you're sick, you are no use to them any
Wow.
longer. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm content with that.
I don't know. I've been hearing about this for a while now in terms of so you have said some poignant stuff, and I'm connecting with it in terms of when you first said you have to be an advocate for your own health. I've been hearing this over and over again, which means it's absolutely true. Because as I said initially, sometimes you go to the doctor and you know you're afraid sometimes to ask questions or to say things. I'm learning now that you spend your money, you ask what you need to ask. If it is that they're saying, hey, we don't think this is it, run a test, get it done, find out. It's better we find out than not sure and we just push it to the side. um and the other important fact that you're bringing out, and it's the first time I heard it, it's hard to take, but normally when persons are going through things, friendships fall to the side, and
Yes.
that shows I don't know how to say. Is it that people don't value people who they say they're friends, or is it that friendships are not real anymore? It's I don't know how to.
You find out who your true friends are. And that, in my case, it was my family.
Well,
The ones who I grew up with, the ones who have seen me sick, the ones who have seen me in a point of time where I could not walk but had to crawl to the bathroom. That's who are my real, true ride or die friends.
yeah,
The
yeah,
other ones were I was just a convenience.
Mercy.
Somebody that would have a listening ear if you were going through something, because you know that I would be right there for you. So I was just a convenience to them. And if I can say this, and I can't forget, the one who created this body,
Mm-hmm.
the one who died on
On the
the
cross,
cross for me,
definitely. Mm-hmm.
is my ride or
Or
die.
definitely,
Yes.
most definitely. First of all, what are some of the survival tips for those affected, and even for their loved ones?
You know, one of the number one survival tips that I could give anyone out there who is suffering from not just lupus, but a chronic illness,
Yeah.
is for you to remain with a positive and prayerful attitude.
Yes.
For the family to be understanding and have an open mind and learn everything possible about that individual's illness and stay informed. And if that particular individual can no longer communicate for themselves, I pray that a caregiver, family member, whatever you are to that individual, steps up
Yes.
and be that individual's advocate.
Yes.
And for those of us with this chronic illness, lupus, the survival tips are you have to watch what you eat.
Mm.
I am on a plant-based diet.
Okay.
It is true that the foods that individuals consume in their body
Mm-hmm.
will trigger lupus. And also, we have to remember that the food is no longer fresh like it used to be when
Yes.
I was growing up. They inject steroids
Oh yes.
into these animals and antibiotics
Mm-hmm.
into these animals, and you have to be really careful. Change your diet,
Yes.
remain with an exercise routine. If it's just walking up and down your block every day, or go to a fitness center
Mm-hmm.
and join a fitness center where you can be around other people
Yes.
and it can alleviate not only some of the stress placed on the body from having this illness, but it will relieve some of the stress that we have in our day to day lives.
Yes.
So watch what you eat, wear sunscreen, remain prayerful, exercise, but stay positive. Your life is not over.
Yes.
Remain a fighter and remain prayerful.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for that. What are some of the triggers that you have?
The sunlight.
Okay.
The sunlight can cause rashes, which will in turn cause me to go into a flare. So when I go to the doctors, I take early appointments. Some of
Okay.
my doctor's appointments are at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8. I never have any appointments later on in the day because I know if I go later on in the day, I can't deal with the heat or the sun.
Okay.
That is the main one. And if I go grocery shopping, I stay away from the refrigerator section and
Oh,
freezer section of the store. I will tell my sister what I may need, and she will go and get it for me. Just like when you go down to the laundry aisle, those different scents of the soap powder, air fresheners, and softener, clothing
right.
softeners,
Close
like,
ones. Right. Right.
yeah,
Right.
that'll trigger me. So I stay away from that. And two, I have to be careful around people who may have colds.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
like we're wearing masks now. I've been wearing a mask for I don't know how long. But if I did not wear a mask, that cold that person has and they sneeze, it will hit me 10 times as
Mm,
hard on my body than it would, and I hate to put it this way, a normal person.
yes. Understood.
So I just really have to be careful, and I try not to go around anyone new. I don't shake hands, and I tell people we can fist bump, but I don't shake hands because I don't know where your hands
Has
have
been
been.
right. Yes.
So I really have to be careful of that. It's a lot, that can trigger, but that is a few things that will trigger me into going into a flare.
Okay. Okay. Is the perception of the process the reality of it?
No,
Okay.
it's much deeper. It goes much deeper, and you know, it's kind of hard for me to say. Oh, I can speak for myself, but it goes much deeper. And I can say this for myself. Um, when I lay my head down at night, I ask God to abide by His grace and mercy and allow me to finish this course.
Yes.
It's a process that, for myself, I don't know if I'll wake up that
Yes.
next morning. But I always pray that He gives His grace and mercy upon my life to finish my course and what He has set for me to do. It goes much deeper. I try to take all of the situations that have happened to me and turn them into a positive to assist the next person.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's what it's like for me.
Oh man. Okay. Um. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're so
I
welcome.
think Yeah, I think you're doing such a great job with sharing your story. It's very inspirational, and I think you're very strong. Not everyone that is going through probably the same situation or something similar is able to share and talk about it the way that you have. And, you know, tell the exact truth. Be so open, be so vulnerable. Not everyone is able to do so.
Right.
But you have reached a place where you know what it is. you
Hmm.
believe you believe in God and how He is going to. This is the life,
Yeah.
and the only thing that you can do now is to trust Him
Yeah.
and to move forward. As to what is it that you want to do. But you have given people, from even this podcast, you have given people the courage to even go through situations and just rely on only God, because there's nobody else that you really can rely on.
No, it's not. No, it's
Yeah.
not. And you never give up hope or faith. Never give that up. Regardless of what you hear from your doctors, I sit and I let it go in one ear and out the other and say,
Yes.
God has me.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is man, but God is the only one who knows my journey.
Yes.
He created me. So it goes in one ear and out the other, and I just keep
Yes.
on moving forward.
Yes. 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 Not every time that they say something, it means that you accept it.
No,
Okay,
that's
you think
right.
it is. Let's. If a treatment is supposed to happen, you take the treatment and move on, but you don't sit with something negative, because the tongue is also powerful.
Right,
So what we accept also, it also affects us,
right,
and what
right.
we even speak about our own self really affects us. It's just it's a learning. It's a learning journey.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But
Well,
when you have God
yes.
in your life, it's I'll tell you this. It's a beautiful walk. It's a beautiful walk. And this is coming from someone who has been in the hospital for Christmas, for a New Year's, was in the hospital every other month at one point in time. And the only one that stood right there with me was God.
Yes.
And it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this. Um, yeah. Can you just tell our audience where is it that we can reach you, how we can listen to your podcast?
Well, you can hear my podcast on Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, any podcast station of your choice.
Okay.
If you would like to send me an email, you can do so at mystoryliving@lupus@gmail.com. I'm on LinkedIn at Susan Hendrix.
Mhm.
I'm on IG at I am Lupus, and on Facebook as Susan Hendrix.
Okay. Facebook as Susan Hendrix. Okay. Thank you so much again for being on the podcast. Really appreciate you. Really love having you.
Thank you for the invite, and thank you for allowing me to tell my truth and get it out.
Yes, yes. And thank you again for being so strong doing so. And continue doing it. Continue doing it. We may not know who it is that you may really have touched. So,
Thank you.
yes, continue spreading that. And thank you again, guys, for listening to The Unfiltered by Jade. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday. Thank you.